For whatever reason, Lupin brought me to a park I recalled fondly. I wonder why you would recall it fondly, Emily. Also, do you have anything for this wound in my leg? Is this Greenwich Park? No one else was present. It was just us, a satisfying silence in the hills. Dawn was soon approaching, it appeared. From west to east, the sky bled from black into blue.
Yes, it is. I'm pleased you remembered.
How could I forget? That's when...
When what?
I'm not going to finish.
Why?
Because I don't want to say it. I can't say how well I remember it. How it's where we first spoke, where he first teased me, where he stole that gemstone from me.
And your first kiss? No matter. I remember it well. I think of those memories quite happily. I landed right here with you in my arms then, too.
Lupin's eyes appealed with a certain fondness upon reminiscing, and the sight warmed me.
Although back then you could stand up properly.
I'm all right. I'm sure I can
Don't make it worse. Just sit here. There we are. Stay still a moment.
He was delicate in setting me down on the bench closest to us, and he continued this as he bent to one knee and held, with all due permission, my leg. I mean, we've moved past this part, after the whole cave thing.
I didn't mean for this to happen, Emily. You've got a mark on your beautiful skin because of this.
Lupin. And he continued still, treating my injury so as not to inflict further harm. Thank you. It's very strange. The way he's kneeling below my view makes me feel... fluttery, perhaps. Is this what it's like for a princess when a knight is swearing loyalty to her? Duh. But Lupin has never sworn anything to me. I can't even be certain how much longer he'll be here.
If you keep gazing at me so intensely, then I may well start hoping for more. Is this all right, Emily? I didn't bind it too tightly, did I?
Said I wanted you to.
What?
Woo! Woohoo! Is it time? What if I said I wanted you to hope for more? What would you do? Oh, that was silly of me. I thought I would try acting like you, but...
Emily, I've chosen to live a life bound by no one. To do that, I've left Spellbound behind me, but they won't soon let me leave without consequence. And that means I won't be able to stay in this city any longer.
It was the strength of a man who'd made up his mind. The cadence of the resolute who sacrificed for the greater good. It was awful to hear.
Still, with Professor Moriarty apprehended, the city should become a bit safer. With that said...
Don't go. Don't go. Don't leave me. As soon as I started, there wasn't any way for me to stop. The words gushed. You're always selfish. No matter how much I want to see you, no matter how much I chase after you, you never think to wait for me. You never even turn to look at me. Every time I try to reach out my hand to you, you never take it. I'm left to grasp at nothing but air.
I want to give this back to you, Emily.
Lupin, just then, chose to produce the very treasure I'd been seeking. The photograph of my mother and father.
This... Your photograph would have guided you to the truth, but it would have put you in danger as well. So...
What are you... What do you mean? You burned... Dude, I needed that evidence! Oh, you're so infuriating. He produced a second item, a match, which he sparked immediately, flaunting it before my eyes before setting fire to the photograph with no hesitation. You better have made a copy of that, or I'm gonna slap you. And I wasn't fast enough to stop him.
This is the most I can do.
Lupin crushed the glowing pieces between his palms with a sharp clap. They opened again seconds later with a comparatively gentler parting. My treasure, my memory, became ash, particles to be blown with the wind. All that's left is just those three. So, interesting.
If this is something entrusted to you by your family, then you should have it. It's a little smaller now, but I hope you won't mind that.
That is precision. Man, okay, so he managed to do it in such a way that he burned what would have led her to the truth about her parents, but kept the memory part of it intact, of how close her parents were with Victoria. Man, conflicted about that. I snatched the largest piece away from him. All that was left was Her Majesty, with the smiling faces of mother and father next to her. Why are you giving me this?
Well, now you have no other reason to chase after me, do you?
But how could this be? I should have been rejoicing. I should have had the photograph back intact. I should have delighted at the thought of never having my heart played with by this thief again. By all accounts, I most certainly should have. He was telling me this moment would be our last. Don't believe it. Last time he did that, he showed up at school the next day. Little liar. Whether I've gotten the photograph back isn't the problem. I wept. I could stifle cries of pain, but tears flowed liberally. You're so horrible. Selfish and scheming. Just horrible. This wasn't it. This wasn't what I wanted to say. None of it was. But the weeping persisted, and so too did the condemnation.
It's true. I am. I run from you time and time again, but I still want to know how you feel. I can't give you love as you want it, but I want more than anything for you to love me.
I just can't fathom how any one human could be so greedy.
Do you think less of me for it?
How could I? That's just how you are.
As kind as you are, I wish you did. If you don't, I'm going to get swept in your kindness again. I'll take advantage of your heart again. Hurt you again. And though I'm not the one who can wipe away your tears, I still find myself not wanting anyone to do so in my place.
Lupin's smile was one of remorse. And though he said he could not, as always in his life of contradictions, he lifted his hand to caress my cheek and wipe away my tears. Even after, he continued to stroke it with the back of his hand, a docile, gentle repetition that moved me and restricted me all at once. He was a man of so many faces, but the warmth he shared with me was always the same.
Please, Emily, can I ask you for one last thing?
Stop doing this. You always do this. And my heart clenches every time. Gosh dang you. Now I'm getting weepy. What is this boy making me weepy all the time?
I'm going to count to 10. Will you keep your eyes closed for me?
The first time he asked this of me, it ended with vexation. The second time, it ended with loneliness. But perhaps the third time would be different. That's all?
That's all.
After you finish counting, will you still be here?
Yes, I'll still be here.
If only he were a better liar. Very well. I'll trust you. What other answer could I give?
I'm glad. Thank you for trusting me, Emily. Now, close your eyes, and don't open them till I'm finished.
All right.
Ready? 10, 9, 8.
The dawn arrived as I closed my eyes. I waited and listened. Each number uttered was my tell of how close he was. I dug my nails into my palms, keeping my arms rigid at my side to prevent myself from reaching out to him. He drew nearer, nearer, and nearer.
7, 6, 5.
Something wrapped themselves around my clenched fists.
Are these his hands?
His fingers pressed against mine, to which my fists relaxed. He broke between them till we were intertwined.
They're so warm.
When I squeezed his hand in affection, only just enough for him to know I was well, he returned it.
4, 3, 2.
How much longer would this last? How much longer would I know the feel of his touch? I was afraid. The answers were waiting for when I would next open my eyes.
1. Farewell, Emily.
I knew there was going to be a kiss at the dawn. It's just like the night he kissed her, but now it's daytime. And now they're holding hands this time. A warm sensation met my lips. This time he was the one to squeeze my hand. As he did with me, I returned it eagerly. The way we kissed conveyed everything we needed to know about one another. It was the kind that stood in place of confessions of love, the kind of infatuation I'd only read in fairy tales. I thought he would be as ravenous as his greed, but this is so modest. Lupin kissed like a gentleman. Generous, but chivalrous. Passion shared was only just enough. A show of adoration without submerging me. Could this be because we were alone? To think all this time, he did nothing but run, twist scenarios and conjure fallacies to his amusement until now. Finally, he stayed because he could not hide how he wanted me. I wanted him too. The kiss could have been seconds or minutes, but the heart becomes dull to the hours in moments like these. Lupin teased me with a playful bite to my lips before parting, because of course he did. I now stood, eyes still closed, to a silence I wish weren't there, to one less welcoming than the one I shared with him. Reality awaited my return, and so I opened my eyes. The park had been illumined by the rising sun, shimmering at every peak with vivid color. Never had I seen it look so beautiful. But Lupin was gone. And I was now alone. Did he give you his mother's necklace? I'm actually crying. I can't believe I'm actually crying. Oh, it has been a long time. Ugh. Since the tears. Ugh. Hakuoki tears, man. There was a particular something different to before, however. A necklace around my neck that wasn't there before. This is his mother's. It must have been before he kissed me. It's made using rose quartz, isn't it? It didn't take long for me to remember the symbolism behind its color. You're a liar, Lupin. You told me you would still be here. There was no one to wipe away my tears, no matter how I cried. I don't remember what rose means. Oh, I don't remember. I'd have to look it up now. They fell endlessly, down to my cheeks, dropping from my lashes and chin to land on this necklace of mine that was right away so very wonderful. Ah, true love. I see. Okay, thank you, Emily. You returned my photograph, then left a necklace symbolizing true love. And then you had to steal my heart. You idiot. You idiot. You idiot, Lupin! The third time ended with all the emotions I'd felt previously and more. I could shout his name in anger, and he would not return. I could beg him to come back, but I would still be lonely. I could grieve, and there would be no one to wipe my tears. And so I cried alone on such a very beautiful morning. If that's how you end. Oh my god. There's more. I like if it's like, the end, epilogue, maybe he comes back. Just to run away again. Which would have been fitting for his character, but gosh. Oh, A Knight's Vow. Oh, the tears. Man, that got me. That really got me. Oh no, not Fog again. Is this Emily, or are we Lupin right now? There was I, encased in a deep fog that obscured everything beyond my reach. Oh, it's a dream, probably. What am I doing here? Is there no one else? Indeed, there was no one. I stood unaccompanied, for even the ground where my feet surely had to be was a pool of smoke. To see nothing was an eerie solitude. My nerves were quick to get the better of me. And for what? What was this profound sense of dread? Was I going to disappear as well? Fade into the fog? Become one with it? There has to be someone, surely. Someone! Anyone!
Forgive me, Emily.
I turned at the sound of a foreign voice, and there he was, Lupin. Lupin! Oh, thank God. I thought I'd been left all alone.
Emily, I've chosen to live a life bound by no one. And that means I won't be able to stay in this city any longer.
There was something in his hand. The photograph. This is...
Well, now you have no other reason to chase after me, do you?
No! No!
Farewell, Emily.
Lupin, with that remorseful smile that had come to haunt me, turned his back to me. I watched him, unmoving, unblinking, as he walked farther into the distance, the fog only parting for his figure briefly before embracing him. Wait! Wait, please! Don't go! I called out to him, but dash it all, my throat cried nothing. I wanted to follow, but wouldn't you know it, my body was rooted to the spot. Please! Don't leave me! Why ask this of him? He had already vanished. I don't care if you're a liar. I don't mind being tricked if it's by you. Just, please. Please don't leave me alone! The first thing I did upon waking was give a great shout. That dream again. My heart raced within a body that felt twice its normal weight. It felt as though I'd been running for hours. My head pounded whilst my chest bobbed obsessively for air. How many times does that make it now? I sat up from my bed and felt a cold, raw sensation along my cheeks. I was crying again. I cleared them away in a routine manner. It was the same. Always, always the same, this nightmare of mine. This nightmare that began the night he left. And it would always, always end in the same manner, with a voice that would never reach him. My mornings were spent reminding myself that he was gone. Asleep? Awake? The state didn't matter. It persisted as a constant. Though in a sense I preferred the nightmares. At least in those I was able to see him. It's been days by now, too. It had been 1 week, in fact, since Lupin and I parted ways. That very morning, there was an article in the paper reporting that Scotland Yard had not only discovered Spellbound's hideout, but also apprehended many of its members. Wow. Yet no list included the names of Arsene Lupin and Professor James Moriarty. I suspect that the professor knew he would be captured and made preparations in advance. This will keep him at bay for a time, certainly, but there's every chance he'll be back to his crimes before long. Perhaps even independent of Spellbound. This wasn't the time to rest on my laurels. But I did. I had spent the entire week in my bedroom refusing to go to class. He could be at school this entire week and we would never know. My leg was a fine excuse for it in the beginning, but the days had passed and the wound was light once cleaned. No. It was my heart that left me broken. Oh, what a pitiful young lady I'd become.
Good morning, my lady. How are you feeling today?
Pendleton entered my room. I like that you're pretending like you haven't heard her crying out for the past week. Good morning, Pendleton. I'm quite well.
I'd prefer if you didn't lie. We both know you aren't terribly good at it. You look as though your sleep was far from a restful one.
I didn't wish to meet eyes with him.
I don't intend to question you on the contents of your dream, for they are not for me to know. But I would request that you push them aside for long enough to have some breakfast. You've had so little to eat this past week.
You should be overjoyed, Pendleton. I'll finally fit into that corset you want me to fit into. It was true. My appetite had been reduced to nothing, to the effect that I barely touched even the most finely prepared meals. Pendleton even thought to tempt me with my favorite custard tarts to no avail. There was nothing to inspire me. Not food, not school, not the beautiful day. The positives of life could no longer sing their beautiful song for me. Why have I been so listless all this time? Is it because I've realized my greatest wish will never be granted?
The servants are all so worried about you. Even Holmes and Watson have come out of their way to visit.
I know. I know that I can't be like this forever, of course. But my heart feels as if it's been stolen away from me. Open my chest and there would be naught but a hole where it should be.
I wish I could pretend to know what has caused your distress. The most I can do is say that I am looking forward to the day when you show us your smile again.
Nothing good would come from sitting in my room and indulging my wounds. I suppose I had done more than enough sulking for this lifetime. You're right, Pendleton. I can't continue to worry everyone like this.
Do you mean that, my lady?
Yes. Have my uniform readied for me.
As you wish. I shall prepare some breakfast as well. Were you to attend school as you are, I imagine you would be so feeble that you would be sent flying out the window by a modest gust of wind.
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but I do admit to being a little peckish.
Very well. But I would advise against eating too much after abstaining. Your stomach won't be able to handle it, so something like oatmeal would be best.
That sounds lovely, Pendleton. I cannot sulk forever. I need to move on. I won't be able to forget Lupin straight away, but with enough time, I'm certain my heart will feel lighter. I took up the rose quartz necklace that was sitting atop the table. Nothing good was ever going to come of wanting true love from a lying gentleman thief. With this small goodbye, I placed it within the desk drawer and locked it away. I couldn't help but feel timid at the thought of returning to school. There could be whispers floating about or some such nonsense from my absence. Yet I learned quickly this timidity was unfounded. Each schoolmate I'd passed greeted me with cheer and expressed relief at my return. Oh, even Mr. Mackenzie.
Good morning, Miss Whiteley.
Good morning to you as well, Mr. Mackenzie. Even he greeted me with similar relief before I'd reached the classroom.
I am pleased to see you looking very well. Has your injury recovered then?
Yes, I'm in perfect health now, thank you.
I was quite surprised upon hearing you were injured, and twice that when I learned that Lupin had been injured again.
Lupin? There it was, that terrible tightening of the chest.
Indeed. No sooner had he returned after spraining his ankles did he fall from the stairs and, failing to break this fall, broke both of his arms. The boy has the most rotten luck I could conceive. His grades are excellent, but at this rate, he may be absent too much and will have to repeat the... Whatever is the matter, Miss Whiteley?
Nothing, sir. I only just swore to myself that I was going to forget him, so why does hearing his name leave me this shaken? It's easier said than done, girl. Give yourself some time. It's not just gonna happen overnight. I can't hope for more. Be strong, Emily. You are never going to see him again in school.
You appear rather somber today, Miss Whiteley. If you stay like that, all the happiness in the world is going to escape you.
I must look the part if even Mr. Mackenzie is worried for me.
Your little pout absolutely has its charms, but I think you look more beautiful when you smile.
Thank you. Huh? Lupin's not pretending to be Mr. Mackenzie, is he? That'd be wild. Yeah, I'm like, that's... not... I've gotten to know Mr. Mackenzie pretty good. Pretty good. So, you know, it's kind of suspicious. Was I hearing things that sounded so unlike him?
Oh, but it's almost time to start class. Shall we be going?
Yes, sir. I followed him promptly into the classroom.
Emily! Are you alright now?
Yes, I am. I didn't mean to worry you so. Aw, Kobayashi, it's been so long. You sure? I heard you broke both your arms falling down the stairs, and then you went and hurt your right leg.
You seem to have given her Lupin's injuries in addition to her own, Kobayashi. I am genuinely concerned for him as well, of course. How does one go from injuring both their legs to both their arms?
Oh, well, he is quite resilient. Only rivaled by Watson in our class, really. He'll live, I'm sure.
That he is. Not a day goes by where he doesn't trip over himself, but he always manages to pick himself back up again.
I'm impressed his spectacles have stayed in one piece through it all.
As a fellow spectacle wearer. Yeah, thank you, Marple.
A fellow who wears them also would think that way, wouldn't he?
Now, class, take your seats, please.
Sir, I notice you're in the classroom 5 minutes earlier than usual.
Even Holmes is onto it.
Dang.
Well observed, Mr. Holmes. And by my luck, I made it to the academy without being hit by a single carriage or automobile this morning.
He looked positively thrilled by this unexpected burst of good luck.
My grandmother used to tell me that when an unfortunate person is suddenly blessed with good fortune, there's always something more to it.
And what more would there be? It's possible good fortune simply has a way of finding everyone once in their lives. And this just so happens to be his day.
Of course, Marple's grandmother was onto something. There's two Mr. Mackenzies. How long were you planning on keeping the charade up, though, Lupin? Like, surely, unless you, like, knocked out Mr. Mackenzie, he was gonna come to class eventually. I am so intrigued as to where this scene is going to go.
Good morning, class. Take your seats, please. I'll have you know that I found a 4-leaf clover this morning. I brought it with me to share my good luck with...
See? It is his day after all. Wait. What?
Why are there two Mr. Mackenzies? A second Mr. Mackenzie arrived, dressed to the same perfection, wearing the same sullen features. Who on earth could this man be? Not a single student held their surprise. Wow.
My goodness! Who are you? You can't possibly pretend to be me whilst looking so low in spirits.
Pardon, but I think he mimics that part of you very well.
I see that nothing good can come of our teacher being blessed with anything. It is a shame.
And how shameful that some scoundrel would impersonate the instructor of a course made of detectives. Though we were already fit for shame if he can manage to sleep through a crisis like this, I suppose.
Hi, Jack. It's been a while.
Which Mr. Mackenzie is the false one, then? They both sound the same to me. The disguise is flawless. We may be dealing with... Miss Whiteley.
The second Mr. Mackenzie was forced in my grip as soon as I stood.
Whatever is the matter, Miss Whiteley? You look rather frightening.
Why? This is absurd! And yet, could it be? No, it surely could not. But what if it were? Doubtful. But it would eat away at me if I didn't check, though I'd feel like a fool if it weren't. Oh, what a circumstance! Did it matter? Distrust played fiddle to hope in my mind, which was all I needed to hold the man's arm and refuse him a path to escape.
Your little pout absolutely has its charms, but I think you look more beautiful when you smile.
There was only one person I knew who would say something so fickle. Why did you say something so uncharacteristic whilst in disguise? I'm sorry. I was not prepared for a Mr. Mackenzie CG, so it's just kind of funny to me. Oh, it's amazing. Mr. Mackenzie?
Because you really did look sad. I could not help but be tempted into cheering you up.
Ah, there he is.
Especially knowing I was the cause of your sadness.
You idiots. With that, the coat of the teacher before me went soaring into the air, too much drama, and in place of the disguise was a smiling gentleman thief. Mr. Mackenzie, as well as my schoolmates, could only stand with unified jaws to the ground in shock. Poor Holmes, will he ever recover?
I suspected it was you, Lupin!
I am delighted to see you, Monsieur Holmes. I knew you would see through it sooner than later.
What just happened? He changed so fast that I didn't even see him do it! What's your secret?
There are bigger concerns for the present, Kobayashi.
Lupin! What are you doing here?
Is there anything in the classroom you wish to burgle?
Just his lady love.
Well, I do have a certain interest in the collective that this classroom possesses as detectives. Knowledge is a treasure in its own right. Today, however, may be considered untraditional. I sent no notice, but if you would come with me, Miss Whiteley.
Me? This must be a dream! Lupin was real. Here he was, directly before me, his smile in true fearless form. He wasn't looking away, nor was he fading into some darkness where I could not reach.
Only you. I've come to kidnap you.
He climbed deftly onto the window frame, just like when we first met. He reached out his hand to take mine.
Rather, I've come to steal you, Emily. Come with me.
Lupin!
This interruption was brought about by Holmes, who appeared very cross as he tossed something thin towards the thief. Ha! Yet it was no trouble. Lupin caught it between his fingers to see it was one of his own playing cards.
My dear monsieur, could you not see I was in the middle of a romantic gesture?
A pity for you that I don't care in the slightest for any of your gestures. You threw that card to me at Cheddar Gorge. I'm giving it back. So long as I have it in my possession, I will be incessantly reminded of how you've outwitted me.
How kind of you. So, do you have plans to catch me here and now?
Of course. But first, a query for you. Have you come here on someone's orders, or is the decision your own?
Tut tut. Do you think so little of me that you feel the need to ask? The only person who may order me around is me, as it has been since I was a boy, and as it shall remain when I am old. If I want it, I make certain the world knows it. You know this, do you not, Emily?
Lupin reached for me once more. All too well. I did not hesitate to take his hand. I know how greedy you are and how distinct a liar you are. The flutter I felt upon his touch was enough to send me into a euphoria. But of course I wouldn't dream of telling him.
Being called a liar doesn't quite have the same ooh-la-la as being called a gentleman thief, but oh well. All that mattered to me was whether you would accept my hand.
Wait, Lupin! Are you going to kidnap her in front of us?
Temporarily, yes. You'll be able to lunch with her, unless I change my mind.
Ah!
Hold on tight, Emily.
Thus we jumped from the window, Lupin and I holding one another as a prince and princess would. Is no one in that class gonna question why Emily was just like, hey, my man, let's go? After she was so furious with him, like the very first time when he stole her away. Oh my goodness, put two and two together, everybody. You're all detectives for crying out loud. No! I shut my eyes by instinct. This is certainly a familiar situation I found myself in. There we were, just the two of us. Eyes closed, wind caressing my cheeks, and a sense of weightlessness that no longer instilled fear in me. What bliss!
How do you feel, my princess? You may not have been able to enjoy it the first time, but I should think you can now.
The temptation was too much to resist. I opened my eyes. Aww! That is so cute! Her boots aren't as cute, but she looks so happy. He was wearing a cape. No, not a cape, a pair of mechanized wings now spread behind him to assist us in our journey through the sky.
My life is a rosy one, I should say. I never knew I would be given the opportunity to fly with you a second time. Perhaps I've stolen all of Mr. Mackenzie's luck. The poor man. He never had much of it to spare, and yet I imagine he would still permit one of his beloved students to take it had he the choice.
Lupin spoke in an airy, liberated manner, and in that time he could not resist the grin of a child's. I gazed down below us at the passing scenery. It reminded me of our first meeting. He smiled like this when we first met, but it was so dark then. I've never seen him quite like this in the daytime. Oh, but he truly was suited to the light of the moon. Or is he more beautiful now beneath the sun's rays? He makes for a lovely view no matter how I picture him. Oh, Emily, 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 you and your beautiful boys.
Emily, what is it?
Well, I was thinking of how I accompanied you without putting much thought into it. But, you see, I hope you know that I have a lot I'd like to say to you.
I'm certain you do. Do you mind waiting on those thoughts for just a bit longer? Now, hold me close. You've no doubt had enough of falling from great heights for one lifetime.
Finally, I had him. He wasn't running, nor was he evasive. But how? In what way could I express what I wanted to tell him? In my bafflement at a dilemma that was surely simpler than I was making it, I chose to stay quiet and take solace in his embrace. The classroom, meanwhile, had fallen into quick disarray. Whispers were dismissed for loud gossip, such that the commotion became impossible to quell. Kobayashi.
Those wings he had were fantastic! How do they work? And where was he keeping them?
Need I tell you again that there are bigger concerns than his tricks?
People have long dreamt of soaring through the skies, but seeing it done before you as though it were nothing cheapens the romanticism a bit. I feel robbed.
We don't have time to waste sulking about robbed dreams. Emily was just abducted. Again! No, Miss Whiteley was not. She left with him of her own will. She must have something in mind. Do you think so? Lupin is not one to commit a crime without advance notice, as we all know. That is true, but he strikes me as the kind of man who would advance flirtations with a girl quickly. That worries me.
Oh, you have no idea, Watson.